Bee Swarm Simulator is fundamentally a game about progression. You start with a single bee, and by collecting pollen, crafting better gear, and working through quests, you slowly build a hive. Eventually, that hive turns into a honey-making powerhouse, producing incredible amounts of honey. For many players, however, making honey isn't just a side activity, it's the main quest. Nothing shows that more clearly than a perfectly executed boost. Today we're diving into the most unbelievable boosts in Bee Swarm Simulator's history, from the game's early days of 2018 to the record-breaking numbers of 2025. We'll see what each year's most powerful boosts look like, how players managed to pull it off, and how each one pushed the game and its dedicated community further than anyone thought was possible. Think back to 2018, the year where Bee Swarm Simulator was invented. The game back then was very simple compared to what we know now. There was no 35 bee zone, no mythic bees, and the best gear you could hope for was the porcelain bag and some guards. During the first couple months after Bee Swarm's release, there were no clear boosts due to players just grinding hours on end to make the honey that they got. This was until the Beesmas update of 2018 had arrived. This update introduced the festive bee and festive beans, with festive beans being extremely overpowered before they were nerfed. One bean gave you 30 minutes of 100% instant conversion, you could share it with anyone, and there was no cooldown. Players immediately realized that they could use alternative accounts to have a full boost with 100% instant conversion. This was the birth of the first true boosting strategy. The face of this matter was SDMittens, who made around 10 billion honey in just 10 minutes using festive beans during Honey Day. For context, the number one player on the leaderboard at the time had barely just scraped a billion honey. She claimed that with enough festive beans you could make 100 billion in one day, which was absolutely insane back in 2018. Meanwhile, players like OpaOsiris took the festive bean meta further, using countless alt accounts to supply beans and reportedly hitting over 100 billion in one day. The numbers feel small now, but back then, they absolutely shattered the leaderboards. Nothing really changed from 2018 until the Mythic Bee update in late 2019. This was the update that the 35 bee zone and the coconut canister were added, and more importantly, mythic bees. For the first time, the color of your bees in your hive was important. It decided how far you could optimize a boost. Players started to lean towards red hives with the new spicy bee, which stacked flames for big multipliers and buffed pollen output in a way that finally rivaled white's gummy meta. The player who had the biggest boost of 2019 was Lib. On December 31st, he made over 8 trillion honey in one day, breaking all of the previous records. Other reports from top players suggest that single boosts in 2019 could reach 2 to 5 trillion honey, especially with spicy bee stacks and festive beans. Another key figure of 2019 was Gumadin, who became the first to hit 10 trillion all-time honey and received a global message from Onnit. By the end of 2019, Red had proven that it wasn't just competitive, it was the future. In 2020, Bee Swarm Simulator received two major additions that completely changed boosting: Supreme Star Amulets and the Mythic Meteor Shower. Supreme Star Amulets introduced powerful passives like Guiding Star and Star Soar, while Mythic Meteor Showers launch constantly into fields and instantly convert everything that they collected. When these two systems were combined, boost started to climb to levels that had never been seen before. The player who pushed this the furthest was Elol. In one of his more famous runs, he managed to make around 68 trillion in just 3 minutes, peaking at about 1.5 trillion honey per second. In a different boost, he pushed nearly 70 trillion in one boost, and on August 26th, he set the record for the year with 116 trillion honey in a single day. Elol's boosting was so overpowered that Onnit had to nerf Mythic Meteor Showers right after. It remains the only time in Bee Swarm Simulator's history that a single boost directly caused an emergency nerf. Other players like Mr. Macedo achieved important milestones this year, including 100 trillion all-time honey in June, and later 500 trillion. But 2020 is mostly remembered for Elol's Meteor runs. They showed just how much potential the new system had before they were nerfed. 2021 introduced a wide range of new features which reshaped boosting once again. Additions that this update brought were Nectar, the Precise and Buoyant Bees, as well as the new endgame tools including the Tide Popper, Gummy Baller and Dark Scythe. During 2021, Natro Macro was created and released to the public, making macroing much more accessible and effective. It quickly became widely accepted by players, becoming the standard way to farm for most players, especially ones with blue hives. Macros benefited blue hives the most, with Buoyant Bees allowing players to passively farm 100 to 300 trillion in one day. Daily leaderboard totals started to grow larger than ever due to how synergetic blue hives were with macroing. However, there were still some big boosting highlights. On the 1st of March 2021, JoshDaNoob achieved a 140 trillion boost, along with a 26 trillion gummy star during the run. becoming one of the most popular boosts with upwards of 1 million views at the time of editing this video. It proved that White Hive still had the ability to generate record-breaking numbers in one boost. As well as Josh's boost, Gifted TY gathered 383 trillion in one day, which seemed to be very impressive. Gifted TY was later banned from leaderboards due to abusing glitches to duplicate festive beans and manipulate wins. This meant that JoshDaNoob still held the highest boost in history as a White Hive. However, Blue Hive still dominated the daily leaderboards due to macro. Throughout 2022, boosting reached into the quadrillions. Blue Hives continued to utilize macros to dominate daily leaderboards, but both Red and White Hives began generating enormous numbers during BSS and Honey Day events, setting new expectations for what was possible. The first player to make more than 1 quadrillion in a single day was a player named OnitStepsis. On February 27th, he made 1 quadrillion honey in a single day, marking the first time 1 quadrillion honey had ever been reached in a single day. Back then, it wasn't just one boost that could achieve this number, but a timed series of multiple Honey Day boosts which stacked into the record, further showing how consistent grinding would always beat one lucky boost. Later on in the year, Fragile Silence went even higher, making over 2 quadrillion in one day on October 5th, raising the ceiling once again. White Hives had the most notable achievements of this year, averaging boosts around 1.1 quadrillion honey, even without festive beans. Red Hives only reached around 1.2 quadrillion honey with maximum buffs like the Honey Day and full consumables, proving that White Hives was still the real meta around this time. Meanwhile, Elol became the first ever player to hit 10 quadrillion all-time honey on the 1st of March. The digits were so high that Onit had to update the game so the leaderboard could display values above 16 digits. Just Some Noob briefly passed him later in that month, but within 2 days, Elol had retaken the spot at 13 quadrillion honey, where he stayed for over a year, establishing himself as the GOAT of B-Swarm. 2022 marked the point where quadrillions became the benchmark for top players, setting the standard for every boost that followed. The BSS update of 2022 introduced the Robo challenge along with the Digital Bee, instantly becoming a vital bee in boosting. Robo gave players a new type of amulet to obtain, offering new and unique buffs, while Digital Bee brought corruption tokens and the ability to duplicate tokens. Players manipulated this feature for double bear morphs, inspired tokens, etc. One of the most notable boosts during this year came from NameName, who boosted during the Robo challenge to achieve a 9.4 quadrillion boost, peaking at about 90 trillion honey per second. At first glance, it looked like a normal red boost, but the Robobear's upgrades pushed it much higher. Onit soon made it so that any honey made during the Robobear does not count towards a player's all-time honey count, removing all players' honey that had previously been made from the leaderboard. But the boost still remained as one of the most impressive runs ever recorded. Outside of the Robobear challenge, White Hives with the addition of the Digital Bee set their own records. Fragile Silence, also known as Mikey, playing on Elol's account, recorded a 10 quadrillion day. Around the same time, a player known as Pythor managed to achieve a 2.7 quadrillion honey star, which turned into a 9.1 quadrillion boost, peaking at about 600 trillion honey per second. By the end of 2023, White Hives had clearly become the strongest option for boosting. Heading into 2024, White Hives continued to dominate boosting. The combination of the Gummy Baller, Digital Bee, Coconut Belt and Honey Day events made them far stronger than Red or Blue Hives. The biggest boost of this year came from Mikey, who reached 6.7 quadrillion honey during a BSS Honey Day boost. At one point in the same boost, he hit 2.7 quadrillion honey in a single minute, a number that would have been unimaginable only a few years earlier. Although White Hives are heavily reliant on RNG, 2024 proved that White Hives would most likely stay the best hive for boosting in the future, unless Onit decided to make some significant changes to the game's balance. In 2025, the biggest boost set so far was by Smarty66. By this point, boosting was well understood and optimized, and the main difference between boosts came down to execution, lineups, and luck. Due to a very good lineup, Smarty's boost reached 14.6 quadrillion honey in a single run, with 10 quadrillion of that made in the first minute of the boost. What made it so significant was not just that it was a world record, but just how it was achieved. Smarty had no wins and no map corruption, significantly decreasing the potential of the boost. But Smarty's run became the new standard for what counts as a legitimate world record. It showed what was possible under normal conditions and set a benchmark that others now aim to match. The year is not finished yet, and BSS or Honey Day could push the record higher. But for now, Smarty's 14.6 quadrillion honey boost stands at the peak of B-Swarm boosting in 2025, representing the cleanest and most respected achievement so far. Looking back, the history of B-Swarm boosting is a story of steady escalation and progression. In 2018, 10 billion honey in 10 minutes was enough to dominate the leaderboard. In 2019, trillions became the new benchmark. 2020 brought mythic meteors, pushing boosts into the hundreds of trillions before they were nerfed. 2021 introduced macros, which gave blue dominance in the daily totals. 2022 broke into the quadrillions for the first time. 2023 produced both robo runs that were dismissed and legitimate white hive boosts reaching 9 to 10 quadrillion honey. 2024 cemented white's dominance with a 6.7 quadrillion business boost, and 2025 set the current record with Smarty's 14.6 quadrillion boost, the cleanest world record in BSwarm history. Each year's record reflects the state and complexity of the game, the bees, the tools, the items, and the players who made the most of them. If the past 7 years are any indication, the numbers will continue to rise. Eventually, someone will break the 20 quadrillion barrier. The only question is, who will get there first?